She thought he was just another poor old man wasting space on government land. 10 minutes later, she was standing in front of a courtroom full of people, speechless, as the criminal revealed who he really was. But by then, it was too late. She had already humiliated him, already shouted in his face, already called the guards. What she didn't know was that the man she tried to destroy had once worn the very robe she now begged for approval. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe our channel. It was a busy morning outside the city courthouse. Lawyers in expensive suits rushed up the stone steps, flipping through files, arguing over cases, and barking into phones. Security guards stood tall at the doors, scanning every face that passed. Among the crowd, unnoticed by most, stood an old black man. His skin was weathered, his beard touched with gray, and his hands rested gently on a polished wooden cane. He wore a dark brown overcoat, neatly pressed slacks, and old shoes that had clearly walked through many seasons. His posture was proud, his eyes calm, like a man who had seen too much to be rattled by noise. But to most, he looked like a nobody, a quiet, harmless figure standing alone at the bottom of the courthouse stairs. To Claire Thornton, he looked like an easy win. She stepped out of a black SUV with her chin high and confidence pouring out of every movement. Her suit was designer. Her heels clicked like gunshots. She was young, white, and burning with ambition. As she looked down at the old man, something flickered in her eyes. Disgust? Dismissal? Maybe both. She didn't ask who he was. She didn't bother to speak. She simply pointed. "That's him," she told the officers standing nearby. The squatter. The fraud. And just like that, the story had begun, one that she thought she was writing, without knowing that the real author was standing quietly right in front of her. The guards walked toward the old man. Claire followed behind them, holding a stack of papers in her hand. Her heels hit the ground hard as she walked, full of pride. She didn't ask the man his name. She didn't care. To her, he was just another case, another problem to remove. She stood in front of him and waved the papers close to his face. "You've been living on land that doesn't belong to you," she said sharply. "No documents, no proof. You're coming with us." But the old man didn't move. He didn't speak. He didn't even blink. He just looked at her, calm and quiet. No anger, no fear, just a soft, patient smile. Claire frowned. She hated that smile. She thought he was mocking her. In her eyes, he was being stubborn. In his eyes, she was being loud. The guards gently told the man to follow. He nodded once. Then, without saying a word, he began walking slowly toward the courthouse. People stepped aside as he passed. Claire walked behind him, her eyes cold, her heart full of pride. She thought she had already won. She had no idea who she was dragging into court. The courthouse was busy inside. People rushed through hallways. Phones rang. Papers shuffled. It smelled like old wood, fresh ink, and stress. As the old man walked through the building, some people looked up. A few squinted. One of the older clerks leaned in to whisper to another, Is that really him?" But Claire didn't notice. She was too focused on her notes. Her high heels clicked on the floor as she walked with fast steps, her briefcase swinging beside her. She had prepared every word for this moment. This was her first big case, and she wanted to prove herself. She didn't see the way people stared at the old man. She didn't hear the whispers. She didn't feel the shift in the room. To her, he was just a poor, silent man who had broken the law. A man she would crush in court with facts and confidence. She was already thinking about what she would say after winning. But what Claire didn't know, what no one had told her, was that the man she accused had once stood in that very same courthouse, not as a defendant, but as a judge. The courtroom was large and quiet. A few people sat on the benches, waiting for the next case. The judge entered the room, and everyone stood. Then they sat down again as the case began. Claire stood up with confidence. She cleared her throat and looked straight ahead. This was her moment. She spoke clearly and firmly. "This man has been living on government land for 2 years. He has no legal right to be there. He forged documents. He has wasted government resources. We request his removal and a full investigation." She didn't even look at him while speaking. To her, it was simple. Facts. Law. Power. When she finished, the judge nodded. "Does the defendant wish to respond?" For the first time, the old man stood. He didn't rush. He didn't need help. He stood tall, proud, calm. "My name," he said softly, "is Justice Obaisai Madu." The room went silent. One of the court clerks dropped his pen. The judge on the bench leaned forward in shock. Obesai continued, I served as Chief Judge of the High Court of Kenya for 18 years. I retired with honor. I moved here to live quietly. I own the land. Legally. With documents. He reached into his coat and slowly pulled out a folder. Old, leather, and carefully kept. Inside were the original land papers. Not copies. Originals. With official seals and signatures. One signature belonged to the judge sitting in front of him. The judge stared at the documents in shock. She took them from Obesai with both hands, carefully checking every page. Her eyes widened. The stamps were real. The signatures were real. Everything completely legal. The courtroom was dead silent. Claire stood frozen. She looked confused, then nervous. Her lips parted slightly, but no words came out. Her confidence was gone. Obesai turned and looked at her. His voice was still calm. I didn't speak earlier, he said, because I wanted to see how far you would go before searching for truth. Claire's face turned pale. She looked around the courtroom. Everyone was staring at her. The judge cleared her throat. Her voice was firm but respectful. This case is dismissed. Mr. Madhu is the legal owner of the land. All accusations are false. You are free to go, sir. Gasps filled the room. The guard stepped back. The few people sitting on the benches now whispered to one another. Claire felt like the ground had been pulled from under her feet. The man she had accused, the one she thought was a nobody, had just revealed he was far greater than she could ever imagine. And the worst part? She never even asked who he was. Claire sat back down, slowly. Her face was red. Her hands were shaking. She had come in proud and ready to win. Now, she couldn't even lift her eyes. The judge handed the documents back to Obesai with a slight bow of respect. Thank you for your service, she said softly. Obesai nodded kindly. He didn't smile to show victory. He didn't speak with anger. He simply turned and walked toward the courtroom doors with quiet dignity. As he passed Claire, he paused. She didn't look up, but she heard his voice, calm and steady. You saw my face and made your decision, he said. You didn't ask my name. You didn't look for truth. You only looked for someone to blame. Then he walked out. The courtroom stayed quiet for a long moment. Claire stared at the floor. Her thoughts were loud. Her pride shattered. Her career, just beginning, now had a painful scar. But something else had also begun to grow inside her. Something new. Something better. Shame. Reflection. And maybe the first step toward wisdom. Later that evening, Claire sat alone in her small office. Her briefcase lay open, her notes scattered across the desk. But she didn't look at them. Instead, she stared at a screen, searching for something else. She typed his name, Justice Obesai Madhu. Page after page appeared. Court records, newspaper articles, awards, speeches. He wasn't just any judge. He was one of the most respected legal minds in his country, known for fairness, for wisdom, for giving young lawyers a chance. She kept reading, for hours, quietly. Then, slowly, she wrote a letter. Not for the court, not for her records, for him. A letter that began with 2 words she had never written before. I'm sorry. In the letter, she didn't make excuses. She didn't defend her actions. She simply admitted she was wrong. And then she asked a question, one she never thought she'd ask. Can I meet you again? Not as your accuser, but as your student. She mailed the letter the next day. No one else knew. But weeks later, in a quiet park, the old judge met her again. He brought 2 cups of tea. No anger, no pride, just peace and the willingness to teach. Never judge a person by their silence, their age, or the color of their skin. Sometimes, the quietest person in the room has lived the loudest life. And sometimes, the ones we try to bring down are the ones sent to lift us up. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like the video and subscribe our channel.